It has been said that any speaker worth listening to always starts with something funny. So I've racked my brain for when did I have the most fun? And I finally decided that I really haven't had real fun since December 4th, 1991. So instead, I am going to share my story directly with you. As Linda said, during my tenure at Pan Am as Vice President of In-Flight Service, we had many happy moments, some sad moments. And short as my tenure was, I can tell you that I cannot claim to have the history that many of you have in this room, but I can claim a love affair and a lifelong connection with a company that I admired and revered over the years as the world's most experienced airline. I ask you to keep the word experience in the back of your mind because I plan to offer my perspective and perhaps a new definition as to what it meant at Pan Am to say world's most experienced as I expand on my remarks and explain my personal journey in the airline industry. My fascination with Pan Am started as a teenager when I took my first flight on a brand new DC-8 jet from Rio de Janeiro to New York via Caracas, Venezuela. I knew right then that I had found my calling. As I was growing up, I would frequently go to the World Port at JFK to observe the travel process and dream. Yes, dream. I watched the arrival of the airplanes. I've observed passengers deplaning and enplaning, as during those days it was possible to be close to the airplane during the boarding process. I watched the catering of the airplane, and I particularly focused on the flight attendants who supervised the catering, who seemed to be counting things all over the place and moving these metal boxes. And of course that caught my attention, and many years later I understood why they did it, because when I got there I did it myself. Most importantly though, I went to the World Port to observe the crews as they went about the boarding process to every imaginable international destination. With glassy eyes, I wondered if I could be one of them someday. Did I have what it took to join an elite team of poised and proud people? As fate would have it, once I finished college with a master's degree and fluency in 3 foreign languages, I finally applied to Pan Am. And I recall that day as I recall this moment. The first thing I did, I went to St. Patrick's Cathedral on 5th Avenue to beg. The second thing, I walked to the Chrysler building and I stood there to make sure I wasn't lost. And the third thing that I did was meet Amy Perrose, who interviewed me. Unfortunately, I did not make the cut. I still have the rejection letter in its original envelope, which has taken the yellow pallor of age, and frankly, I am surprised that it hasn't turned to dust after over 50 years. No greater tears were shed than on that day, but somehow I picked myself up and earned my wings at American Airlines almost a year later, where I had a successful career as the airline grew and ultimately became an international powerhouse. Over the span of 15 years, I held various administrative and leadership roles and was part of the team that developed the American International Flagship Service that is offered on all long-haul flights, even to this day. It was no Pan Am, however. Believe me, it was not Pan Am. And no matter what I tried to do, I could not really understand what was missing. Why is it that we can't be like them? What was the magic formula? And it took me many years to figure it out. One day, I was sitting in my office at the American Airlines headquarters. It was really late, past 8 or 9 o'clock at night. My phone rings, and on the other side was Tom Plaskett, then the new CEO of Pan Am, asking me to join the company. That moment was the fulfillment of my begging at St. Patrick's Cathedral. And a defining moment in my professional career and personal growth. I joined the company in February of 1988 at a time of immense change and challenges, but also great opportunity. I tackled the job with all my heart and soon learned that one of the most important lessons that would shape my customer service philosophy for the rest of my career. After being around my new Pan Am colleagues, I learned the difference between service and hospitality. In fact, I recently read a book called Unreasonable Hospitality that talked about these principles as a new concept. Service at American Airlines, or the American way, was what could be called black and white, meaning doing your job with competence and efficiency. But Pan Am was about color, meaning making people feel great about the job you are doing for them. Getting the right drink or meal to the right person is just service. But as I read in Unreasonable Hospitality, engaging the customer you are serving so you can make an authentic connection is hospitality. And Pan Am was about hospitality. So that was the secret sauce that I had been looking for and missing over the years. It took the industry a very long time to figure that out, and many have been trying to copy it, but unfortunately, no one to this day has succeeded. In the beginning of my remarks, I said I would offer a new perspective for the definition of experience, quote unquote. As it was used by the Pan Am marketing team, what that meant was how many countries we flew to, the myriad of innovations and firsts that the airline brought into the industry. But from my chair on the 46th floor, and yes, I was on the 46th floor, I chose to use the word experience in a narrower sense, to mean how we would make the customer feel on board of our airplanes. To start out, I redefined excellence as the culmination of hundreds of details executed perfectly. Not just executed, but perfectly. And then I called on my studies on the science of appreciative inquiry. I don't know how many in this room are familiar with that, with what that is. But appreciative inquiry is truly a science that suggests that to turn an organization around, you have to look for what worked in days past. We have to describe where the organization wants to be, based on the high moments of where they had been. And we had high moments at Pan Am. And I knew that. And I also knew that if we focused on the high moments, people would remember what they were, and they would be able to execute the hundreds of details that I was asking about. So, at the end of the day, the Pan Am flight attendants were impeccably trained. They were able to perform their duties almost without thinking. It was natural. It just happened. We knew what to do because we had standards. And I must say that I repeated those standards over and over again. So I apologize for those repetitive memos. But they were necessary so that we were clear on what our goals were. You know, there was a sense of care and the right attitude to make the onboard experience memorable at Pan Am. It was almost as if being on the Pan Am airplane itself was the destination. The Pan Am airplane was the end game. It was the experience, being on board Pan Am. And that's what people remembered. And that's what they talked about. Not what they did in Lisbon or what they did in Frankfurt. They talked about the flight and what happened and how it was done and the people that they talked to and who they met. So that experience, quote unquote, is what I strived to revive, because that was the true essence of Pan Am. So it really wasn't about the elegant presentation, the little flower at every tray table in first class, and the precision of the delivery from the Gala. It was the people. That was the secret. That was the sauce. What we did had formality, really, because it was a very elegant process. But you know what? It was not stuffy. And that's what made us different. In today's changed industry, the come-as-you-are party, as I call it, everyone talks about customer experience and customer service this and customer service that. It has become a cliche, really, and very few understand what it really means. It is an overused term that has no basis on the reality that defined Pan Am in its days. What we did was unique and cannot be replicated through a new airplane or technology. And that's why we're here today, to celebrate something that was once great, and only a few of us that were part of the team can truly appreciate it. Pan Am wasn't the glassware. It was not the signature meals from Maxime's of Paris, or the fine champagne. Remember, Christophe? It was the people who made Pan Am. It was the people who made it all happen. It was their determination and enthusiasm. It was over 30 years ago that we ceased to operate. And here we are today because Greatness, like a fine work of art, endures. All of us, every one of us in this room, made a difference. We had a role, whatever that role was, but we made a difference. Pan Am was the mentor that shaped everything I have done over the 45 years of my airline career. I learned about the remarkable power of people on getting a job done. Yet, it is important to have a good, tangible product, like we heard last night. But that's not good enough to succeed long term. You have to start by hiring for attitude. You have to create a systemic culture of hospitality. And you have to stay focused on the goal, even when times are tough. The last few years of our beloved company were fraught with difficulty, and they were tough. But we still managed to deliver a premium service to the very end. I know that during those days, I failed you many times because I couldn't provide you with the tools that allowed you to perform to your potential. And for that, I am sorry. Yet, you maintained your pride to the very end, and you ensured the legacy of Pan Am would live on as evidenced by the presence of everyone here tonight. If I have one regret that I want to mention, is that at the 11th hour, the communication systems were shut off, and I never got the opportunity to say thank you to each of you for your extraordinary service and commitment. You made it all possible, and even though I am 30 years late, please accept my heartfelt gratitude and appreciation now for what you did. And for who you were. I ended my career in 2018 as a Senior Vice President of Product and Service Delivery at American Airlines. Don't ask me what that means. I have no idea who came up with that title. But in that role, I was charged with harmonizing the products and services experienced by customers across American's domestic and international network, as well as the 7 regional airlines that fed the domestic operation for American. I was able to do that because I never forgot what you taught me at Pan Am. And you taught me the experience of customer experience. That's what I learned from each of you. Thank you for teaching me that. And as a leader, I also learned that people who are gifted at hospitality tend to be sensitive. They feel deeply. They care a lot. And of course, that tenderness can be a challenge to manage. And a challenge it was. And frankly, it was a handful. But I will never forget that the team is what comes first if you want to succeed in any business. Forget the plan, forget the goal, take care and love your team. Thank you for allowing me to be here tonight. And for finally able to recognize in person your contribution and to express my admiration for who you were. Thank you.